you guys, it's Jennifer. Welcome to my channel. Today's video, I'm going to be showing you what I'm going to be reading during my summer of rereading, which is going to be starting tomorrow on June 1st and we'll be going through August the 30th. I do believe August only has 30 days, but if it doesn't, then it'll be the 31st through the end of August, whatever. This past month, the newest Murderbot Diaries book by Martha Wells came out called Network Effect. And now so before I read that, I'm gonna catch back up on the previous 4 novellas. And so that would be, I'm gonna starting with All Systems Red, and then going into Artificial Condition, Rogue Protocol, and Exit Strategy. I discovered while going back over the order of this that there's actually a 6th book in the works for next April, so that'll be fun. It's about this security bot that has hacked its governor system, so now it's in control of itself as opposed to the corporation that built it. And so it's trying to figure some stuff out, including why it did this thing that made it call itself Murderbot, and to keep this group of people safe. And yeah, it's really fun, and Murderbot has a very interesting personality, and it's very fun, and I liked all of the books to varying degrees. They were all like 4 or 5 stars for me, so I'm looking forward to this reread process. Next up is, I'm going to be continuing the reread I've already started of the Machineries of Empire books by Yoon Ha Lee. Earlier this year, I read Nine Fox Gambit and Raven Stratagem. And so next up, I will be into the 3rd book, Revenant Gun, where they're dealing, well, I'm not going to tell you what it's about because it's the 3rd book. And then Hitchhiker stories, which includes like prequel short stories and a follow-up story to Revenant Gun that seems to be bringing new adventures for them to get into, and possibly, fingers crossed, future books. So this is about a Hitchhiker, which is, it's this vast universal, it used to be led by 7, because it used to be a heptarchy, and now it's by 6 main groups who each have a ultimate leader. And so they run off a calendrical system that powers basically their war system, and it involves like a lot of sacrifice and doing certain things on certain days, and some people don't like it. Anyway, so, and it's also following this infantry captain who gets promoted to general so that she can take on the disembodied psyche of a general who went crazy. So this is fun, and I really liked this series, and I've been listening, like I read the series the first time as an ebook, and now I'm doing audio and ebook combo, and I'm really enjoying it. I'm really getting more out of it this time. So I am excited about continuing with that. It's been a couple months since I read the last one. I'm also going to be starting a reread of The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy by Douglas Adams. This includes the 1st book, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, The Restaurant at the End of the Universe, Life, the Universe, and Everything, So Long and Thanks for All the Fish, and Mostly Harmless. I am not going to be rereading that 6th quasi-ersatz 6th book by Ian Colfer, because I don't think that should be considered a part of the canon. But that wouldn't be a reread anyway, because I've never read it. Anyway, so there are also a few standalones that I am going to be reading. First is a book that I haven't read in about a decade, but it was my favorite book for a time, it was my favorite standalone book from the time I read it when I was 18 till I read Pride and Prejudice when I was like 20. But it is White Oleander by Janet Fitch. And it is about this girl, Astrid, who has to go into the foster care system after her mother kills an ex-lover. And I really liked this. Let's not say I loved this book, and I read it a lot when I was younger, but it's been a good 10 years since I've read it, and I'm interested to see if it still captures me the same way it does. There's just something about this story and the way Janet Fitch tells it that I found captivating. I haven't really been interested in any of Janet Fitch's other work, but this I am interested in seeing if it holds up now that I'm not in my early 20s anymore. Next up is a book I read like 5 years ago, and I haven't reread it since. It is Tell the Wolves I'm Home by Rifka Brunt, and it is about a 14-year-old June. Her uncle dies of AIDS, and she was really close to him, and so she befriends her uncle's lover, who is also dying, and she has to deal with her grief over her uncle's death and her dealings with her sister and her mother after what's happened. So I really felt a lot reading this one, and I'm interested to see if it holds up. I think it's been a good 5 years since I've read it, and so we're going to see what happens. Next up is another book I read like 3 years ago, and I absolutely loved it. It's The Sea Wolf by Jack London. And so what happens here is Humphrey Van Weyden ends up being an unwilling guest of Wolf Larsen, who is a abusive sea captain of this seal. It's a seal hunting ship called called Ghost, and the captain, he's very brutal, and he's very intelligent. So he wants somebody other than the shipmates to talk to, and he sees this guy, and he's like, I'll make you into a man if you talk to me, if you give me somebody to talk to about philosophy and all that. And so this is what happens. I really thought this had a good story up to a point. I feel like there's an incident that happens where it starts kind of falling apart for me, but I did still like it very much. Next up is The Metamorphosis and Other Stories by Frank Kafka. This is another one that I have not read in a long time. And I remember most of the Metamorphosis, and then there's this one that the story I really like in here is The Hunger Artist. And I am very looking forward to revisiting these stories, and I'll let you know what I think, because I don't remember a whole lot of the other stories, but I remember liking this book. Okay, so the last standalone I'm going to reread is The Seventh Function of Language by Laurent Binet, and this is about a philosopher? Well, it's in the back he's listed as a literary critic, and I do believe he's a philosopher of semiotics. Roland Barthes gets struck by I think it's a laundry van, and so it's not determined they're trying to determine whether this was a accident or if it was on purpose, and this French detective Bayard teams up with a semiotics professor to find out what happens, and they end up getting caught in some hijinks by, they get French politicians, all kinds of French academics, and Umberto Eco, and this group of debaters called the Logos Club, where losing a debate can mean losing a limb or a digit or something else. Anyway, I loved this the first time I read it, and it was so fun. But I don't know that I could understand it exactly. So I'm hoping when I do this reread, I can delve a little bit more into what's going on. I think I'm going to read this in July to coincide with the Foucault's Pendulum by Umberto Eco, because they both make cameos in this book. So yeah, I really enjoyed this the first time, and I'm going to enjoy it again, I'm pretty sure, and maybe understand it a little bit better the second go around. Okay, so the last set of books I'm going to be rereading is a series of books, my favorite series, by the author Poppy Z. Brite. And I'm going to start, technically there's a prequel novella, but I'm going to start with the first book I read. So these two lifelong friends, plus some, are fired from their job at Tequila Town because after a very hard night, the chef passes out beers to the line cooks, but they get caught by the manager. So Ricky in particular, as opposed to G-Man, who's his friend, they decide, well, they don't decide exactly, they come up with this idea to have a restaurant with every dish has some kind of booze component in it. And so this is the story of what happens after that and how they, you know, try to make this dream a reality. And this is seriously one of my favorite series ever. I love the atmosphere, I love the culinary components, I love the New Orleans components, and I love the characters. So after that, I'm going to be reading this. This is The Value of X. And in the first book, you find out that, you know, Ricky and G-Man, they were friends, I think, since like 4th grade. And then in high school, they start developing more feelings for each other, and it doesn't sit well with their parents. And so this is the story of how that happens. And then these two are the 2 follow-up books. So in this one of Ricky's old teachers from this one contacts him in order to help out with a situation in Texas. And this is based mostly in New Orleans, and he is helping a man who was sent to prison and who is now out get back in the game and help do his own restaurant. This is a side story, and it's a novella, and this is one of my favorites, and it is when one of Ricky's football Saints heroes is getting honored by a duck hunting club. They get to do a banquet, and this is what happens there. And then these 2 are just short story collections, including some short stories in this previous universe and some other ones. But I'm going to include these because it's been a very long time since I've read these, and I'd like to do that again. So yeah, that is all the tons of books I am rereading this summer. I'm looking forward to it. Some of these I've only read once, and I'd like to see if they live up to expectations. Some of these are old friends I have not visited in a while that I really want to get to. So, yeah. Those are all of them, and that's going to be the main focus of my reading. I'm not going to be exclusively reading the rereads, but I will be letting you know in my weekly videos what other things I'm rereading. So that is all. Do you guys have any fun readings plans for this summer? And let me know if you've read any of these books and what your thoughts are. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!